Mr. Chairman, I need to run down and check the box to make sure we don't have anything dropped off in it. So I'm going to go do that real quickly and I'll be back as absolutely quickly as I can, but I have started the recording.
Okay, we'll wait for you.
Good. Hey, Joe.
Yes.
So we had a budget meeting. We went through a lot, but they still don't have the CDCA and the RHM numbers yet. We're just waiting for those.
Okay.
We'll have another meeting on that. Then we can discuss it.
Okay.
Hey, Dave. I got,
Yes, sir.
what are the white flags by all my trees they're gonna be putting in, you know?
I don't know.
They put white flags for every tree's going in except one. I was
Hey, which one?
concerned. The one on Guinevere, the one by itself on the left side, going down the hill. No, I'm sorry, one in Excalibur. There are two going on Excalibur, there's only one flag. Which is weird. So everything else has a white flag on it.
Okay.
I guess-
I did get an email from Matt Ionetta late today that said that they intend to do everything this week. So it's probably what they were looking. He did have a question about the cherry tree, but I think your arborist said that they were going to take care of that one. Is that accurate?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a call tomorrow
Yeah, do
to
that.
go over everything. If that's all right.
All right, thanks, Dave.
Yep.
I think everybody else got lost.
I got in. Sorry for the delay.
It's all right, John. We see you. So with Maria and Tom.
Okay, I'll call the November 2nd, 2020 Newtown Township Municipal Authority meeting to order. Mr. Neese, would you please go over the instructions for joining?
Yes, again, as we've been doing for all public meetings, we've been taking public comment in one of four ways. You can make public comment by dropping off something in the blue drop box, which is at the main entrance to the building. Township Building. I have checked that. There was nothing in there this evening. You can raise your hand while on the Zoom meeting and you will be recognized. That's a button with down in the instruction pad that you can do to raise your hand. You can also, if you're using the phone, there's a phone in option to raise your hand. If you don't remember the phone in option, if you send an email to publiccomment@newtowntownship.org, again, that's publiccomment@newtowntownship.org, with your phone number that you've called into the meeting and your name, we will recognize you. If you choose to only just make a public comment through the email, you can, and again, that's at publiccomment.org. I'm sorry, publiccomment@newtowntownship.org. Sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once and I shouldn't. If I can, if the Tom that is in as an attendee is Tom Smith, would you please raise your hand? Did not. So, Mr. Chairman, I think oops, he did. Let me go ahead and move him over. So I believe that both Marie and Tom are here, but they've just been moved over to panel. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Let's do a roll call. Mark Kay,
Here.
Maria Kane,
Here.
Tom Smith.
Here.
Okay, John Weaver,
Here.
Operations Manager Stephen Neese,
Here.
Counsel J. Michael Sheridan. I know I did say him somewhere.
Here, I was on mute.
Sorry about that. And our engineer, Mr. David Porter.
Here.
Okay, thank you. For the record, the authority met in executive session before this meeting to discuss two real estate issues that may or may not end up in litigation. During that session, the board has asked the engineer to obtain additional information from both of those situations and report it back at the next meeting. No other action will be taken at this time. Everyone would like to say the Pledge of Allegiance? The Pledge of Allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
Of America.
and to the republic
For which it stands.
stands
one nation,
One nation under God.
Under God,
indivisible.
Visible,
Liberty
with
and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone's had a chance to take a look at the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Everyone's had an opportunity to look at the minutes from the October 5th, 2020 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to
Motion to
approve the minutes of
approve.
October 5th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have no announcements. Is there any public comment at this time?
Mr. Chairman, there's none in the email, and I do not see anyone's hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Everyone's had an opportunity to look at the treasurer's report, which was submitted earlier, I think late last week. Do I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report as submitted?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Payments. Make a motion, we consider approving the bills on check register dated November 2, 2020 totaling $176,693.08. Do I have a second?
second,
Are there any questions or comments? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
aye,
Thank you. 10.2, I make a motion, we consider approving $139.71 refund to Drew and Melissa Cohen at 3578 Muirwood Drive for a quarterly sewer bill overpayment. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
second,
Any questions or comments? If not, all of those in favor, please say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Aye.
10.3, make a motion, consider approving a payment from the bonds totaling $1,974 to Michael Sheridan for professional services associated with the 537 public sewer build out. Do I have a second?
second,
Second.
Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor, say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Can we scroll up the screen while we're doing these?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
10.4, I make a motion, we consider approving payment from the bonds totaling $6,312.50 to Herbert MacCombie Engineering for Part 2 permit work, public sewer project relative to the Camelot Service Area construction. Do I have a second?
second,
Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Thank you. 10.5, I make a motion to consider approving the payments from the bonds totaling $850.62 to Herbert MacCombie Engineering for Part 2 permit work, public sewer project relative to the Springton Point Service Area construction. Do I have a second?
Second.
second,
Any questions or comments on the motion? If not, all those in, please say aye.
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 Thank you. 10.6, consider approving payments from the bonds totaling $10,720.62 to Herbert MacCombie Engineering for Part 2 permit work, public sewer project relative to the Ashford Service Area construction. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? If not, all those signify by
Aye.
saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 10.7, I make a motion, consider approving the payments from the bonds totaling $15,685 to Hunters Run Homeowners Association for the restoration expenses associated with the 537 public sewer project build out. Do I have a second on the motion?
second on the motion.
Are there any questions or comments on this motion?
Yeah, would you mind explaining this one, Joe? I'm sorry if I'm,
So we were going to, we were obligated to restore shrubs and bushes that were removed in order to put the sewer line in. The homeowners association came back and asked if they, I'm paraphrasing, but asked if they could have their own people install this. And they came back and they gave us this dollar amount, which I believe we did discuss at the last meeting, last several meetings. We'll get a credit from J.O. and Bradley because it's their responsibility.
That's
And their
right.
contract, right? And then we do have a release that has been prepared by council for Hunter's Run to execute.
Joe, on that issue, that was one of the items I sent out to folks.
Right.
My understanding was when Fran Marabella, as president of the association, came before us, it was my understanding, and it may be an incorrect one, that what was occurring was they were going to get their own contractor to do all the work that the authority would be responsible for vis-a-vis restoration as a result of the project. So that's the way I wrote the release and the waiver. Mr. Marabella came back to me and says, no, what we wanted to do was use this contractor Earth Care solely for the landscaping and the plantings, but in terms of any grass disturbances that exist as a result of the construction and installation, that's still on the authority. And I said, well, I better check with you folks to see what your recollection was, and if it's the same as mine, whether we still want to go down this path or not.
Okay. Mr. Porter? Dave?
Yes, so similar to other scenarios where we go through easements, the authority contractor is obligated per the contract to restore vegetation. That's an incidental in the contract. So J.O. and Bradley is responsible to provide grass sod in areas other than replacement plantings, trees, shrubs, etc. So my recollection in my meetings with the homeowners association, along with the contractor, and going through considering what the scope of that would be, yes, the authority's contractor would be obligated to restore that area, any lawn area, aside from the replacement planting. So the scope of the $15,685 would be a replanting of anything that was lost during excavation and installation of the sewer main.
Dave, just on a quick estimate, I mean, is there a fair amount of grass that has to be replaced, or is it nominal? Just so we know, I just don't know.
Now, the last time I was out, Joe, was about two and a half weeks ago, and I did not walk the entire easement, but the portions that I did walk looked like we had a significant amount of stabilization. So it looked like it was coming along. So anything, obviously, that needs to be addressed, I need to bring that to the contractor's attention immediately, so that they can, address those areas before the Hunters Run Association executes their contract and has their contractor come in and do plantings. Obviously, the authority does not want to be responsible for anything that their contractor does to disturb areas that were previously restored as part of the sewer contract. So
it sounds like we need to redo, Mike, then we need to redo the agreement between the authority and Hunters Run?
If that's the board's pleasure, yeah. I mean, they're saying that it's overly broad because it includes everything. That's the way it was written. And if we need to take out the grass issue, then that'll be done.
Okay.
And then the grass issue would be handled by J.O. and Bradley.
right, but the concern that I have, and Mike, maybe this goes back to your agreement and keeping it the way that it has, and maybe it's just an understanding that the association needs to have, is that yes, the authority is responsible for the grass restoration. Maybe it's an acknowledgement from the association that, okay, yes, you fulfilled that portion of your obligation, but now anything that you do to hire a contractor to come in that redisturbs that, we're not going to deal with it. That's not going to be the authority's responsibility any longer. And maybe that's part of the misunderstanding. I don't know.
Dave, are you saying that JO has gone in and restored everything to its pre-construction condition? Grass is growing, everything's good?
Yeah, I need to do a final walkthrough and verify that, Mike. But again, from what I saw a couple of weeks ago, it did look pretty good.
Well, for Mr. Marabella, and it was only a week ago that I had this exchange with Mr. Marabella.
Right.
I got the impression it was still an open item.
Okay.
Which is why
I got that impression as well, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think at this point in time, then we should determine what exactly is left from our responsibility, and then be able to articulate that. And also in the agreement, it should articulate that we acknowledge and they acknowledge that from a grass standpoint, we're done. And that if their contractor comes in to replace the shrubs and disturbs the grass or does any damage to that, then it's on their contractor and it's on them. Is that what we're saying as a board here?
So, I mean, Joe, does it make sense that we're saying that, we'll release these funds provided that there's no further obligation on the part of the authority or our contractors?
Well, before we go ahead and release funds, I want to make sure that the parties, first of all, what's left to be finished in our opinion, our engineer's opinion, get that with Hunters Run Homeowners Association to make sure that we're on the same page. And then Mike can redraft the document to articulate the fact that we will, as agreed, compensate them at a fixed dollar amount for the shrubs and trees. and that we acknowledge and they acknowledge that the other work is completed. If there's any damage, it's now, yeah. So I think based on that, if that's what the board agrees to, I'll withdraw this motion. And then Mr. Porter can get with the contractor, visit the site, make sure that the work that is done, that's supposed to be done, is completed. And then we can draft a new revised agreement that can get circulated, and then we can bring this up in its final form at the next meeting. If that's the board's, if everybody's on the same page.
That makes sense.
Maria,
Yeah, I'd feel most comfortable with that.
John, and Tom, anything?
Fine by me.
Okay.
We're good.
So if
Mike,
Mr.
you-
Marabella says the grass is not good, we want you to go in. You still have an obligation to us as far as that grass is concerned.
Well, I want Mr. Porter to go back out to the site and inspect the site and determine whether or not it's been restored to, quote, our engineer's satisfaction, right? We've done this throughout the western half of the township, so they should be able to go out and determine that this area was disturbed and this area has now been regenerated through whether they did sod, whether they seeded, I don't know what they did exactly. And then from there, we can communicate with with the president of the Owners Association that we've inspected the site. Based on our inspection, it's our opinion, or our engineer's opinion, that the work has been completed. We'll give them that courtesy. Then they could say, well, wait a minute, we have a problem with this, this, and this, and Dave can meet with them and work it out. And then once we have that done, then we'll draft an agreement that reflects that we're done. We'll compensate for the rest of the work. But if your guy brings a tractor and runs over the grass, that's not on us. That's on you.
Is the work that's going to need to be done by the landscape planning guy, David? Will it bring him into the area where the grass was fixed?
Yes, certain portions. Yes.
Okay.
Okay? So
Good.
if that's the consensus, I'll withdraw this motion. Mr. Porter can do the research in the next week or so, and then we can take it up at the next meeting. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, 10.8. Make a motion, we consider approving the payment from the bonds totaling $600 to Ryan Tree and Landscaping for stump grinding expenses associated with the 537 public sewer project build out. I believe that relates to the one property where they came in behind his property and took out some trees. Is that
That's correct.
Okay. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you. Engineers report.
Okay, on the sewer project update, we've been proceeding through the Ashford service area with punch list check off. The contractor is looking to be complete with that this month and to have a final closeout of this service area contract by the end of the calendar year. So that's what we are working toward. I think on the punch list that we issued, we're probably about, I'd say 75% through the items on that punch list as far as verifying that they've been completed. There have been some minor areas that they had to go back and readdress, but for the most part, and fortunately, we've had fantastic weather for vegetation establishment over the past couple of months. So it really held out for us, and it looks like the rest of the week we may have some beneficial weather as well. So with that, we have been receiving public sewer connection permit applications, and as of today, we have 86 applications submitted. We've approved 65 of those for construction. We have 16 folks that are completely tied in at this point. And we have probably 3 or 4 every other day that are requesting inspections. So they're moving forward with getting themselves tied in. With regard to the Springton Point Service Area, Almeida and Hudak is the prime contractor on that project. They requested a preliminary startup on Friday, October 23rd, just to troubleshoot, and big picture wise, they need to have that pump station temporarily placed into operation in order to demolish the rest of the wastewater treatment plant facilities. And so the authority is aware. We needed to remove the emergency generator and the Pico transformer that was powering the old wastewater treatment plant wet well pumps and motors. So we did place the new station into operation along with the existing station to allow for a redundancy there. But we intend to go through formal startup testing within the next couple of weeks with all vendors and representatives present. And at that point, presuming everything goes as well as it did last week, we will have that pump station officially started up and all flow transferred over. So that contract as well will be hopefully off the books by the end of the calendar year. So we're moving along there as well. KBX Golden is aware of the temporary operation of that station, and they are monitoring that in connection with their obligation to monitor the wastewater treatment plant pump station at this point in time. On the Camelot Service Area side, I briefed the authority last month's meeting about the Old Masters Golf Course and restoration issues out there. We had met with the tenants' legal counsel and asked for an itemized list of damages that were incurred to the golf course, namely in their irrigation system and to some of the golf course greens and other grounds there. So they did provide that. James MacCombie and I are going to meet with J.O. and Bradley to go over that list and then respond to the tenant and their counsel accordingly. I did mention to Mike that I will provide our recommendation to him before we move forward with that. Pico service application fee, the authority authorized payment of that at I believe it was the last monthly meeting. It was about $79,000. As it turns out, the contractor called Pico to schedule that outage and extension. Pico's, I guess, subcontractor to do the work is not going to honor that agreement any longer. That agreement, or the service application, was bid out back in 2018 when we were figuring on costs for the bond sale. So ironically, they did honor the other two for Goshen and for Newtown Hunt, but for this one, because the application was bid out in 2018, they're not going to honor that. I'm working with Pico to try to get an updated cost, and I'll present the cost difference to the authority as soon as I get that. And lastly, we're going through the Camelot Service Area to finalize our punch list there and respond to the contractor and authority accordingly. I did forward a copy of the Ashford punch list to Mike Sheridan and Joe for review on that as well. That concludes the sewer project update. Is there any questions by the authority?
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Porter?
Nope.
Okay. Hey, Dunwoody.
Okay, Dunwoody Village. I received water usage information from Wes Kunel, the director of facilities there. Based on the average daily flow, it looks like they're using about 34,000 gallons. I did speak with Mr. Kunel, discussed with him that the authority directed me to go and establish an escrow for professional services. I did mention to him I will provide the services or the cost expended to date, and then what I envision the rest of the escrow to be necessary to cover the review, inspection, and permitting for the pump station that they want to implement. And he was fine with that. As it turns out, it appears that the pump station that they did have spec'd was well beyond what their water usage is, which was tributary to that. So I'll work with Wes over at Dunwoody to get established and escrow over the next month and continue that review and permitting. Melmark School Pump Station review, that I've concluded our review of the plans and pump station calculations. I do have some questions with regard to what they intend to do as far as emergency backup power. So I've put a call into their engineer to discuss those couple of issues with them. Once I get a hold of him and discuss it, I'll issue a formal letter to Melmark School. Anything beyond that is really just kind of minor consistency issues between the plans and calculations. So that should be resolved in the next couple of weeks, I would imagine. Ellis Preserve Phase 2, the shops at Ellis Preserve, as you know, was the commercial portion of Sector 1 Phase 2. That was pulled due to the economic climate, and BPG has moved forward with the residential component there. We issued our review of the sanitary sewer, site sanitary sewer on October 19th. Their engineer responded with addressing some of those comments on the 21st via email. The major response to the comment was their estimated financial security amount and cost estimate for the public improvements, which they did agree to the suggested changes that I had provided them. I do have to issue an updated letter acknowledging the comments that have been addressed. In the meantime, they have been drafting and working with the solicitor to draft a sanitary sewer agreement and financial security agreement, which will need to be executed by the authority prior to them starting construction on the sanitary sewer. In addition, they are awaiting response from the DEP with regard to their sewage planning exemption. And they did hold a pre-construction meeting on the 28th of October. I did remind them that they need to have their sewage facilities planning exemption response before they start construction there. I did see that the Conservation District did respond and made the same comment to them as well. So I'll let Mike jump in if you have anything else to report on your correspondence with their legal counsel with regard to the agreements. If not, I'll move forward, Mike.
I was provided the agreement late in the week, and well, I've dealt with them before with Mr. Adelman, and we've always had very few changes to make, and we sort of followed a format with other parts of this development of the Ellis Preserve. I didn't get a chance to look at it.
Right. I agree, Mike. I did receive it late as well. At first glance, it did look like it followed the same format, but I did not get to go through it in detail to check, the various dates and everything else for the documents that are cited. So the Earls Lake Dam Breach project, the DEP had set that breach elevation at 1 foot above the sediment elevation in the lake. So when they dewatered the lake, it was found that we had additional cover over the sanitary sewer pipe that we were asking them to concrete encase. So I did meet with their engineer in the field. We did take elevations while we were out there, looked at the plans. They are sending me a revised concrete encasement detail. They intend to complete that work this Thursday or Friday. So we have significantly reduced the scope of that concrete encasement because we've essentially provided 2 more feet of cover over the sanitary sewer pipe. So the width of that concrete encasement does not have to be nearly what it was on the design plans. Lastly, the SR3 maintenance on Summit Avenue that we had been looking at. I spoke with KBX Golden. They have downloaded the data or the first round of data for that flow monitoring out there on Summit. And they will do so on the first business day after the beginning of a new month. So I should have that data this week and be able to correlate it with any of the wet weather flow that we recently had and take a look at where we stand as far as infiltration and inflow in that sewer, that portion of the sanitary sewer. One item that was not on my engineer's report that I felt I should bring to the authority's attention was there's a property at 420 Bishop Hollow Road. They were requesting, apparently they're selling the property. They intend to go to closing in December. They were requesting a letter stating that they're connected to public sewer. Now, I had reached out to Mike Sheridan, and he shared some information from what he had in the past on that project. And it appears that prior to the current owner purchasing the project, it was connected to public sewer. However, there were some loose ends in the final closeout of that project, i.e. there may have been additional professional services fees that were owed to the authority from back in 2011. So we're trying to look into that with the township staff. In addition to that, they were never added to the billing record. So they've been using public sewer apparently for 8 years without receiving a bill. Now they have committed to, and that they are on a well, so that amounts to around $5,000 worth of back sewer rent, but they have committed that they want to pay that. They just want to understand what they need to do or what they need to pay in order for their transaction for sale of the property to move forward in December. So as far as writing a letter to state that they're tied into sewer, we typically have not been asked to do that as the engineer. That's typically something that's handled by the administrative staff from the records that are on file. If we are to have to go out to verify that they're physically connected, we're probably going to have to get into some additional things that the property owner would need to do, such as dye testing. The property owner did have a plumber go out and look. They do have an E1 grinder pump. He did say that it's connected to public sewer, but he could not find the connection point. So aside from that, we are working with the township staff to try to get these folks what they need. And Mike, I know you've had some information as well and thought that you may have some additional information beyond that. So if you want to weigh in, you're welcome to weigh in at this point.
I did not locate any other additional information, Dave.
Okay. So if the authority is seeking a letter from us as the engineer, we're going to have to direct the property owner to do some additional documentation or additional, I guess, processes to prove that they are in fact, or where they are in fact tied into public sewer.
Did they not pull any building permits when they made the connection? Do we not have those? Are they not on file with the township?
That I don't know, Joe. I'm going to have to.
They were told, and I believe did apply for a discharge permit. And I believe we're approved for it. The question becomes, the gap seems to become what happened after that.
So they never submitted a plan to be reviewed and approved by the authority or at that time, the township was operating the system, but to approve and sign off on how they were going to connect or where they were going to connect.
I don't know if I don't have any records that show what the plan was.
Right.
The kind of correspondence I have was that they needed to do it. They were going to do it. There seems to be documentation that indicates that they did do it, but I wasn't on the receiving end of the plans.
Understand. Dave, I would say let's stay on top of it quickly with the township staff. If we get to a point where there is no real documentation to show where it's connected and how it was connected, I think it's in the best interest of all parties that we let the homeowner know that in order to certify, this is what's going to have to happen. Since we don't have the documentation, your own plumber can't tell us where it was connected.
Yep.
And here's what it's going to take and here's what it's going to cost.
Okay.
Okay. Do you agree with that,
Sure.
Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes
Right.
my engineer's report for this evening.
Does anybody else have any comments for our engineer, either on that situation or on any of the other situations he briefed us on?
No.
No? Okay, old business. 20 Walnut Street building adjustment. Is Mr. Lafayette with us tonight?
I am.
Okay,
Chairman, real quickly, if I could, I just went and looked. I do not see any files for 420 Bishop Hollow Road.
okay. All right. We'll work quickly with that, and then we'll have to let the homeowner know in order to execute on the sale, they're gonna have to do some additional work at this point in time then, if we have nothing. Okay. Rich, go ahead and bring us up to speed. We've had this on discussion for a number of meetings, so hopefully you can give us a summary and the board can take action. Hopefully, we'll see.
Sure. So as everybody knows, Mr. D'Annunzio back in 2016 came in and asked if he could put in a meter for his well. About 2019, Mr. D'Annunzio put the meter in, and now he is asking for relief in his sewer bill dating back. So I put 4 reports together for the board. The first is if no action was taken. The second would be if they used his average of 78,000 gallons per quarter. The third would be if they used his average and relieved the penalty. And the fourth would be if they used the average, relieved the penalty, and also relieved the legal fees. The board came back and asked me to put together a report for other well customers, which you can see for the well. So currently there are 16 outstanding well customers, 4 of which are greater than a year old. 1 is 2 quarters or more, and the rest are only 1 quarter delinquent. So it is up to the board at this point of how you would like to address Mr. D'Annunzio's bill.
Okay. I'll open it up for the board discussion again.
Rich, can I ask, and this, I should have asked this previously, but do you have any sense of, are these being billed on the well rate or on a meter?
So I actually put this on this report. As you can see, 20 Walnut is the only one that has been billed on the meter rate. The rest of them are all well.
So a flat rate based on the fact that they have, yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Maria, you with us?
He hasn't been on for a while, Joe.
Okay, I know she had to leave for another meeting. I didn't know if she was still with us. Okay, Tom, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I mean, we've been discussing this, we've gone back and forth on this, and I think we've got all the information we need. So anybody have any questions? And if not, does somebody want to make a motion on one of the options that have been presented to us by our staff?
Rich, could you put back on the first, one of the other documents?
Sure. Which one? I'm actually not controlling the screen, but which one would you like to see?
Not sure.
Yeah, that's the one.
You want me to go through all 4 of them?
Yeah, it's running all the scenarios out. So it's current bill's what, 4,200 roughly?
Yes, that is correct. And I would like to make note that that actually includes the bill that just went out this week as well.
Right. So that's essentially what is due.
That is correct. If no action was taken, that is the outstanding balance on the account.
Right.
Hey, Rich, am I looking at this that we've gone from a usage rate of about 86 or 92 up to 187?
That is correct for from the quarter 2 to quarter 1, or I'm sorry, quarter 2 to quarter 3. Yes.
Triple. Well,
Well,
it's double.
double.
Double. Is there an explanation how we doubled his usage?
Mr. D'Annunzio has raised his hand. Would you like me to allow him to speak?
Sure, I'd like to understand how he doubled his usage. Since it goes back to what he said he didn't use all in the past.
Mr. D'Annunzio?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I called to Debbie when I sent that meter reading in that I had a water leak here at the house. So I had a water leak, so she told me I would have to, go about doing something else to, get that bill adjusted. I mean, all the other ones that were read are what we're using. I mean, because that was done for, how many quarters? Like 3 or 4 quarters were read, where we were averaging about 7,500 to 7,600 per quarter. And then the last meter reading that I took, that I went down and, sent it did go not double, but close to that, because I did have a water leak and I was down the shore, unfortunately, and my mother was here and she didn't know about it because it was in the basement.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions, members? Anybody want to make a motion based on the scenarios that we've been presented?
Do you want to see one of the other scenarios?
Mark, John, or Tom, do you want to see the other scenarios?
I mean, Rich, do you have them in your head, which are the 4 essentially that were, we see them as they are. So it's full, it's without penalty and legal. I guess
So
I'm
are you asking
confused.
just for the numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So the full is the $4,213.48.
Right.
Give me 1 second. I have a lot of papers in front of me.
Which one is that you have up now?
This is the one with no penalty and no no legal.
This is
This is like if you forgive everything other
Yeah,
than
this
just
is total forgiveness, right?
total forgiveness.
And what's that dollar?
$1,231.41.
No, 14
$1,231.41.
through the third quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm leaving out this last quarter. That's separate. That's a new bill.
Okay.
So if you would use the average without penalty, leaving out the bill to compare apples to apples, we're at $1,373.
Got it.
And then the last one, just compare apples to apples again. We would remove the legal fees. That would bring us to $1,231.41.
And then the average by itself is 1725.79. So that's with legal fees and with penalty.
Okay. Someone would like to make a motion at this time?
Oh, God.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Am I still on?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be.
Oh, no, I just wanted to ask the board, my mom's actually at this meeting as well. She's on the bill as well. And, I just asking your consideration on, I know at the last meeting, I kind of felt that we were, that you were going to, agree to what I just figured I made an offer of 1,200 when I first got involved with this. And, and then you were right around the 1,370 something, 1,400. I mean, the only reason why I can pay that outright right now is I sold a property that my dad owned years ago, and Mom and I have a little extra money. But other than that, I mean, I'm handicapped and disabled, and my mother's going to be 85 years old at the end of this month. So money is, real tight with us. And, I just, ask for, to be forgiven. I know that, at the last meeting, one of your board members felt that was fair and it didn't.
No, that wasn't the case. But I'm not gonna
Yeah.
get into this.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Neese, can
Yeah.
you bring that off, please?
Which one?
Can you bring up Mr. Dunzio off? No longer part of it?
Yeah, Yep.
He's off.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've had this discussion. We've had it for an extensive period of time. We have the various scenarios.
Yep.
Do we have anyone want to make a motion as to which scenario we want to present and approve?
Rich, can you go back to the last scenario you had up? This one shows everything. Without
is-
legal?
Sure.
All right. To me, that seems like a reasonable scenario without the legal being involved. Still has
So
penalties.
This is just the average, and it has the legal fees and has the penalty in it, the 1725.
Okay,
So the 1725 is the average of the bills over the course of time, but it also includes our legal fees and our interest penalties. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rich, do you have one that has the metered usage plus penalties? Or
Yes,
plus?
so that would, I'm
plus
sorry.
fees?
Yes, so that is the one you're actually looking at. So this is the
Right.
the average usage plus legal fees plus penalty.
And how much is the penalty included in that?
So that would be
Penalty's 361, right?
correct.
Plus or- Yeah.
Yes, correct. 361.62.
So we should I want to get the average usage, and I clearly think we should get our legal fees back.
yep.
At that point, it comes down to penalty and interest.
So what is the dollar amount with the average plus legal?
Without penalty.
Without penalty, average and just the average with the legal, outstanding legal. What is that number without penalty?
Did I do that right, Rich? Is that your four scenarios?
Can you give me 1 second? I can verify that.
Actually, number 4 is without penalty. It's not with penalty, right? Well,
No penalty.
I
So-
said
Yes,
with,
no penalty, no legal, and we're not counting the fourth, the
Third
we're
quarter.
not counting what he owes today.
Yeah.
correct.
But the one that I have with penalty, is that with penalty or is that legal?
Give me 1 second. So you just flipped it on me.
Sorry about that. I think this is without penalty, isn't it?
That is correct. That's without penalty plus with legal.
So the 1373.26 is the average plus legal, no penalty, no interest, nothing else.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So John, that answers your question. 1373.26.
And
So that includes legal.
That is correct, yes. Line number 4 is, yes. Line number 4 includes our legal fees without penalty.
Right, so it's the average usage over time plus the legal fees accumulated to date. That
Correct.
number, 1373.26.
Yeah. I would definitely recommend that, I think.
You want to make a motion? Make a motion. That's what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. Someone to make a motion.
I make a motion that we go with the average without penalty for $1,373.26 as what he has to pay.
How quickly do you want it paid? I want it all in the motion.
To be paid over 2 months, 3 months,
You want to say by the end of the year?
by the end of the year,
Okay.
reasonable.
And if he defaults,
I think if he defaults, we go back to the current bill,
which includes everything.
everything.
Okay. Do I have a second on the motion?
second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all. Please communicate
Just so
that.
I have this right, Maria did drop off, right?
Yes,
Yes.
she did. She
So
did.
it's 4 votes for aye.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Okay, please communicate that in writing to the resident as soon as possible.
Is that something Mike will get involved with?
We surely can have that done.
I think it's more an administrative function if
Yeah.
everybody agrees.
I do agree with that. I
I'd like
mean,
to need a
Rich has
release,
been-
John, or something like that.
yeah, Rich has been working on that. I think he can communicate that to the resident.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm just
Okay.
worried about the spring back, the language on the spring back.
The default. Yeah.
Mr. D'Annunzio is on the call right now, so I think he's hearing what you're saying.
That's fine.
Yeah,
And so he has had the opportunity to hear it,
We're
He's
gonna put it in
raised his
writing
hand.
we're gonna put it in writing as well.
and we'll
Yes.
put it in writing as well.
Yes,
And
definitely.
we'll put it in writing and just let Mike just quickly see it to make sure we've done it properly.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's move on.
Thank you.
Operations Managers Report.
I'm actually not going to report on anything because the engineer covered almost anything that I would have had for you. The only thing that I would say is that we do have a property that might force us to think about something. We do not have, as far as I know, a penalty on our fee schedule if somebody fraudulently undoes their water meter. And so therefore we would not have readings. We have a property that's not had readings for about a year now. And so at some point, and there is a question whether, we don't know that it's been fraudulent, but we believe that it's interesting that it just all of a sudden stopped having readings and we believe people are still living in the house. Aqua is the one that stopped having readings. They are looking into it, but we don't have anything as kind of a clawback that I know of. And so if it's all right with you, I would like to work with the solicitor and staff to come up with something to present to you at the December meeting.
That's fine.
That'd be great.
That's fine.
yes, thank you.
Is this particular property, has this property been current up to this point in time, or is this a
No.
delinquent account?
It is a delinquent account.
Okay. Okay. That's fine.
So we just want to make sure we address it and don't let it continue to go.
Understand.
Absolutely.
Okay, new business. The only new business I have is I do understand Mark told us that the budget committee has met, still working through a couple of issues and hopefully we'll have a budget proposal at the next meeting. If we get the data from, I believe it's CDCA. So that's really all I have on new business. Anybody else have any new business? No? If not, a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a
Adjourn.
second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye, folks.